Thank you for joining me today. Today is part two. I decided to do a second session. I got a ton of questions last week, skin toning, and the session last week was more related to massage and the surface conditions. And we talked a lot about, for those of you that have lost excess weight, how great the machines can be at tightening up that skin tone along with your light therapies. But I had quite a few direct messages after the fact about, well, but how do I lose weight in an easy way without it being necessarily maybe a huge time commitment? Time is a big thing that many of us are lacking in today's world. I'm going to turn some lights on here. So today I thought we would put a little bit more discussion into what are the moves that we can do on our vibration plates to accelerate the weight loss. If you're joining me, I think I'm live now in Facebook land, but just let me know if you see and hear me if you're joining me on the other end today. And we're going to get into a bit of a basic plate routine, primarily standing exercises. We're not going to be getting down on the ground today and doing any upper body or massage. Today is going to be about burning calories. I do not like talking about calories because it's just a big discussion that leads to a lot of misinformation in some cases. I don't like using that word either, but the food piece and the quality of our food and the calories, many things are measured by calories, and I don't like numbers. But it's important to make sure that whatever calories that you are consuming are nutritious. I think sometimes we get so caught up in low carb and low fat and keto and gluten free that we're looking at the numbers, but we're not looking at the quality. I'd rather eat some high calories that are packed with nutrients, nutrient dense food versus empty calories that aren't replenishing and supporting the activities, especially with what we're doing today. So for weight loss, of course, I guess the reason I'm talking a little bit about food, 80% of it is food. I don't know if that's the exact number, but there is a direct correlation. In most cases, there are conditions out there that affect weight, metabolism, all kinds of things that complement whether our body loses, gains weight. And, often the way the market talks and myself today, weight loss is primarily what we're going to be talking about today. But a lot of the things I'm doing are also going to be equally effective for weight gain. Muscle weighs more than fat does. So just because you're a skinny little size 0 doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy. And for those of you that struggle to gain weight, because there's many of you out there, whether it's metabolic issues, eating issues, there's all kinds of things that cause stress in our life, and sometimes we react to it by eating good or bad things, too much or not enough things. So if you're needing nutritional support, the best advice that I can give you is to work with someone that specializes in that. It is not a death sentence, but it's a discipline. The food is the hardest piece for any of us. So if you're struggling with weight loss, whether the food is related to that or not. Maybe you just need some help and some support. And I want to encourage you to reach out to, like-minded friends, organizations within your community, or even some groups online for the support that you need, whether you're looking at losing or gaining weight. So today we're going to focus on moves primarily from the waist down. This entire routine should not take you more than about 5 minutes. I like doing my metabolic work early in the day. I am well post 40. I'm into my 5th decade these days as of Sunday. And, your body changes as you get older. Your metabolism and how it recruits calories and burns them changes. But the basic math is, if we're not doing anything, our internal engine, that metabolic rate that we talk about, if it's not accelerated at any given point, you're probably going to kind of maintain where you're at. And the reason I like to do my exercises, my calorie burning stuff early in the day, is it elevates that metabolism superficially a bit, so that throughout the course of my day, all of my stagnant or inactive time that I sit at my desk or what have you, my metabolism is recruiting higher, using those calories up at a higher rate than had I not done the workout in the morning. The other reason I encourage a lot of my folks to do their workout in the morning is maybe you're dealing with chronic issues and you need something that's short due to fatigue, due to heart issues. There's lots of reasons we can get a lot of work done in a very short period if we are pushing ourselves within the positions we're working on today. And, maybe it's just life and you're busy. And by the time you get home, there's really not a lot of hours left in the day by the time you feed your kids and do some laundry. So if you are going to be doing some vibration later in the day, I would love you to do more relaxing, feel good wellness stuff to support and de-stress you so that by the time you get to sleep, what we're going to be doing here today is actually put into effect. If your sleep's not good, if you're awake, stressed out all night, your body's not able to do that restore and repair while we're sleeping. So if it's easier for you and you're looking to lose weight and time is a big factor, break your time up. Just because your machine is set for 10 or 15 minutes doesn't mean that that's appropriate for everybody. These machines are set for 10 to 15 minutes because over years and years and years, members and users like you have said, I want my machine to run for more than a minute at a time. And then they went 5 minutes. So I want my machine to go for more than 5 minutes at a time. It's really hard when, we're trying to give you parameters around using a device, but the device isn't as complicated if you think about it as exercise. How often do you exercise? How long do you exercise? There's no cookie cutter formula. But you don't need to exercise for half to 3/4 of an hour to lose weight using a vibration machine. It's absolutely not necessary. So we're going to go over to the machine. And I've got my stool with me today for 2 reasons. For those of you that may fatigue and are working on challenging yourself in your exercises, as I always do, working those squats, it's a safety thing. If you fatigue, you can just plop down in your chair. For me, for those of you that have game and are wanting to push yourself in your squats, which is one of the main exercises we're working on today, it's going to be something we strive to reach, but we're not actually going to be sitting down on it. So I do want your chair handy. I do have a mat. I'm working out again today on the Relaxa Vibe. I've also got my trusty dusty ball, which I'll be putting into some of the exercises today. And I've got some click weights from Life Pro, because a really good way to accelerate weight loss is to add mass to your frame. And sometimes if you're dealing with something like a chronic issue, it's hard to get your muscles to a level of fatigue, to boost that metabolism, to get that heart rate accelerated, because you might be dealing with other things that are structurally holding you back. Bad knee, bad back, just fatigue in general. So by adding mass, not only are you ramping up strength to a degree, but you're going to fatigue faster. You can work your muscles harder in a shorter period of time and get similar effects, as opposed to, it having to be this big, long, drawn out session that for many of you, your body just isn't in a position to sustain that. So we're going to start in I don't think I turned the machine on. We're going to start in a seated position. And I always like to do a bit of a warm up. I'm not going to perform one today because I promised you guys a short, intense session. But a warm-up might be something like just a couple of pelvic tilts or just standing lightly to get things moving and flowing. We're going to jump right into the workout today. And the first exercise we're going to do is called a sit to stand. Just like the name of the exercise, we're going to go from sitting to standing, but then we're going to return to sitting. This is a very functional exercise. How many times do you get up out of your chair and stand up in a day? And for many of you, it's a little bit more of a struggle to do that than others. So part of what we're going to be doing here is not only burning calories, but we're going to be improving your function. And it's kind of my way to work the range in your squats a little bit without you realizing I'm doing so. So for a speed, I'm doing this just in oscillating and manual mode. Use whatever setting that you like, but if you have an oscillating feature, I want your feet no more than hip width apart. If it seems too strong or too intense, then you can bring your feet a little bit closer. The model I'm working on today goes 60 speeds. I'm bringing mine up to the 30 range. I want you working at a mid speed. It's going to be a little bit quicker, and all the more reason you don't need those feet wide. So keep them at about hip width apart. We're going to slowly shift our weight, keeping the majority of the weight on our heels. And we stand up. The taller you stand, the easier it gets, but it also directs the vibration more up to the head. So make sure you're bending slightly. We're going to continue moving. I want your positioning good, slow, and we're just going to sit back down. Now, if that was very, very challenging for you or scary, it's probably one to work on. If you're feeling not very stable, if you're dealing with balance issues, what you can do instead of continuing to sit back down after your initial stand up is just continue and hold. So for those of you that have range of motion, instead of sitting back down, I want you feeling the chair, but I don't want you leaning on it. I want you working how deep you get. And what you'll notice when you're in a really deep squat, not moving, you can really feel where the muscles are bearing the load, the movement that machine is creating on your muscles. And you can kind of target what areas you may want to focus on. But because we're engaging the big muscles of the thighs, the glutes, these are your biggest muscles. They are going to burn the most calories. So a little add-on, okay? If you haven't seen my ball trick before, this is just a kid's playground ball. I've got a little bit of the air taken out of it. You don't want it completely firm. We're going to take this ball. We're going to place it just above the knees between the thighs. And the reason there's a little bit of air out of it is so you've got some grip. And you'll notice I have to start incorporating not only the big muscles now, but those inner and those outer thigh muscles that I know many of you are trying to target. So for those of you that are sitting, you can do this seated, right? For those of you that are joining me for the rest of the calorie burn, we're going to put this ball between our legs, same exercise we were just doing. I want you feeling your chair, but I don't want you sitting on it. Put your arms wherever it feels good, okay? You want to make sure the knees are not passing the toes. If you're feeling it in the shins and the balls of the feet, your body's cheating. It's trying to shift the weight more to the toes. It's when the heels connect. The heel bears the weight. That's when you feel the connection going up into those big muscles of the thighs and the butt. So hold this to fatigue. If you can't make it to a minute, I want you to work towards that. For those of you that are dealing with fatigue issues or just fatiguing early on, you could do a couple of reps. But the first exercise was standing up. If you're feeling comfortable, you can do that with the ball and sitting back down, okay? You could do 5 to 10 reps of that, okay? The burn is going to be the squat. And you'll find when you're not moving, not only is it less taxing on those of you that are dealing with joint issues or perhaps you just don't have good technique. I like working in static positions, because you can feel where it's targeting. But many of you are going to fatigue faster. You're able to pay attention to good positioning, and that's going to be key to getting the most out of the exercises, whatever they are that you're doing on the machine. So the next one I want to do is a little bit of a variation. We're going to continue with the ball. We're going to add dynamic movement. So for those of you that are comfortable moving on the platform, you've been doing this for a while, a minute or two is no big deal, and you want to get a bit more of a cardiac effect, movement will very quickly offer that. So we're going to put the ball back between the legs. This time we are going to skim the surface of the chair, and I want you just coming back up to about a mid squat. Okay? Down, up. Put your hands on your hips, whatever you like. And if you could do this for a minute without you feeling like your position is being compromised or you're having to compensate to stay in it, I would rather have a good solid 30 seconds than a minute of wobbling just because you're trying to get that minute done. Or just hold still if you find the dynamic movement isn't working for you. Okay, so dynamic movement isn't everybody's friend on a vibration machine. Not that it's going to be harmful, but not only is it going to fatigue you a little bit faster, but if you're dealing with hypermobility, joint inflammation, anything that maybe has been the reason that you're not exercising regularly, stick with static movement for now until you feel more comfortable, till you can hold a good position for a little bit longer, and then start very slow, purposeful movements. So the last little hack I want to show you for burning calories, if you do not have a set of Life Pros Click weights, you absolutely should consider them. There's quite a few options now depending on what kind of workout you're looking for, what you're using it for. Today I'm just using a single unit because I want to demonstrate not so much an arm workout, but a really good way I mentioned earlier to accelerate weight loss is to increase your mass while you're on your plate. Make those muscles work harder. So I'm not going to add a lot. I've got this preset at 15 pounds. And all we're going to do for this one, I'll start seated again. I want you to kind of hold it in the middle of your body. All we're doing is adding 15 pounds to your body. We're going to do a static squat. So you could do the ball if you want. Okay, and we're just going to go back down, and you'll feel those muscles are working harder. You're 15 pounds heavier, 5 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever it is that you'd like to add, and it will fatigue you faster. I want you paying attention. Make sure that your feet are firmly planted, those knees aren't passing the toes, and if you've got game, add a little bit of dynamic movement. Very slow, very controlled movements. This is a great way to not only very quickly ramp up strength, but it's a great way to get that calorie burn going. So I'm not suggesting you have to do all 3 of these variations, but I would like you to spend 3 to 5 minutes in the morning, if possible. If your goal is to accelerate weight loss, and I shouldn't say morning, maybe it's early in the day, whatever that means for you. Maybe you're a night shift worker and you're not working until 7 p.m. in the evening. Hang on. I'm blind if I have all the lights on. Mama's winded. But 3 to 5 minutes, the reason I want to stress short intervals, you can go longer if time allows, but I want you to understand it's not necessary. So if you've been beating yourself up and not doing your workout because you don't have a half hour, you don't need a half hour. Something like this, 3 to 5 minutes, 1 to 2, 3 mean reps of some type of a squat, lunges if you prefer, something that's going to fire up those quads, the glutes in a positive way. And by adding the ball, the weights, just changing up how you're doing the squats you're doing now, may be the difference that gets the weight loss going again. And sometimes, we think if we go longer and longer, we're going to get more effect. But, sometimes it's not about going longer. It's about making what you're doing more challenging. Your body gets used to anything after a period of time. We're very much creatures of habit. And if you're doing 2 to 3 exercises that target those big muscle groups, it could very easily, as far as strictly weight loss or weight gain, be just as effective as an 8-9 position program. So if you've been holding back because it takes too long, or you think it takes too long, or you have to learn all these elaborate moves, I want you to put that aside right now and recognize 2 to 3 exercises are, be really good at a few goal specific exercises versus thinking you need a new program every 3-4 minutes kind of thing. So I hope that makes sense. I want to see if I have any questions here. Close this. Hello. Hello. Thank you. This one looks different. I have 2 Rumblex. That is a newer one. I'll go over that in a second here, Kathy. Hello, Kim. So hello, Facebook user Kathy and Kim. I've certainly got a few more here. The model I was using today is referred to as the Relaxa Vibe. It's, for lack of a better description, it is the Ottoman model. It's got a padded top with a heated surface if you just want to rest your legs on it. And then the whole top, I've got it in the back there. The whole top comes off to house all this. It's kind of a very sexy version. It's a little bit larger. And because I was doing massage on it last week to cover up a little bit more, the bigger your machine is, the more you can do some massage and get more real estate going at the same time. So you can see the white surface a little bit better on camera. against my black floor. So I thought I'd use that for the next few weeks. But it has all the same features as the other Rumblex models as far as the movements, the preset programmings, and 60 speeds in that manual oscillating mode, which is primarily what I do my coaching in, Kathy. So I hope some of these exercises have helped today. I really, the reason I love doing weight loss or toning sessions is I want you guys to realize that if I can go from being this size 14 with a bad knee, ready for knee surgery, and be here teaching you guys how to use these machines, 20 years later. I don't do big elaborate workouts. I can, but I find if it's short and purposeful, I'm much more consistent at sticking with it than if I have a big half-hour commitment. I mentally really just beat myself up about it. So pick 2 to 3 good squats, some of the variations I showed you today, and be consistent. You can do them every single morning. You don't, this isn't like you're running a marathon and going 10K. So these are things for those of you that have been struggling, whether it's with, getting that weight loss started, getting yourself personally started on the machine. Maybe it's a mental battle. I hope to offer you some relief that, you really only have to do 1 or 2 moves really good and you can have a lot of results. So consistency is always the key, guys. Kathy says she loves her vibration plates. It's helping with her back. Yes. Sometimes the back bears the brunt of a lot of things in today's world. And, if you're adding a specific back exercise, there's so many options out there. Experimentation is key. There's never one move that is best for every back. So, I've done a few back sessions, and sometimes if range of motion allows, you can just sit on the machine and get some good back relief that way. But there's lots of ways if you are dealing sometimes with a back issue, it's getting down on the machine and getting back up that can present the risk itself, nothing to do with the machine. So if your mobility is compromised, if you're dealing, with borderline issues on the pain front, standing would be my recommendation. And anyone dealing with back issues, any kinds of issues, the answer is always closer feet in oscillating mode. Reduce the intensity. It's not about going wide and shaking your body vigorously. I hope that makes sense. Kathy has lost 24 pounds. Good for you, girl. So you're probably dealing with some of the skin tone stuff that I talked about last week. If you didn't see that session, Kathy, and you are gifted with range of motion, there's really nothing you can't massage on a vibration machine. So check that last week's episode out and see if there's some ideas there for you. I don't massage everywhere all the time, but I do have 2 or 3 go-tos, especially when things like sciatic or low back starts bugging me. If I'm doing things physically in my day that I know I shouldn't be, I'm starting to pay for it more than I used to when I was young and recovered quicker. Who else have we got here? So these exercises you demonstrated can be done on any plate as long, the exercise moves are universal. There is no oscillation is better than lineal. There's, it's what feels good to you. The moves are always universal, but oscillating, there's a couple of things with the feet that you have control over that you don't in other modes. So when the positions themselves, if you're using any form of oscillating, the foot distance, close or wide, determines how strong that movement feels. And because I prefer leaning into those mid or high frequencies, I always recommend being more conservative with your feet. It's always a combination of the two things that decide, think of a waveform. Okay. A waveform has, peaks and valleys and things like this, but how big that waveform is and how far apart the waves are these 2 factors I'm always talking about. So your speed is how many times the machine is moving, but your amplitude or your displacement is how much it's moving each time. And it's really common just with the way these machines are marketed. You see everybody standing really, really wide. It's not necessary. In a lot of clinical studies years ago when these machines started, they're working with displacements of like 1 to 2 millimeters. 1 to 2 millimeters on your Rumblex is with your feet dead center. So you don't need to work with a lot of amplitude. You can if you can tolerate it. But for those of you dealing with chronic issues, you're always in control with your feet in that mode. If you're using other movements, so if you're using oscillating or any of the programs, anything like that, and weight loss is the goal, just make sure you're progressing. So if you are using it consistently and you're doing it every day or every other day, the body gets used to any one exercise or setting after a period of time, and eventually you're just maintaining. So what I would suggest, if you kind of got to, I like my moves, so I don't like to change up my moves a whole lot. I'm a creature of habit that way, but I do like to mix up my settings. So if I've been doing, let's say, my squats at 30 this week, maybe I do them at 35, or maybe I drop it down to 20, or maybe I pick up some weights. Change what you're doing from week to week. It keeps the body confused, doesn't get too stagnant, and you can keep those changes progressing forward. And it's a lot easier, especially for something like weight loss. Weight loss, just the word sounds like work, as opposed to like a relaxation session or a massage session. Like the energy that comes out of my mouth just saying the words is good and bad. So when you say things like workout, exercise, diet, there's like negative vibrations, I'm sure, with certain words. So if you're mixing it up, but it's not this whole new routine you've got to learn every week, you tend to be more consistent, and you tend to improve in your range of motion. I like to challenge you to make your positions harder versus starting off with a whole bunch of new positions. Challenge yourself with what you're already good at, especially for weight loss, because consistency is key. And if you're not having any fun and it's too hard, it's a really good excuse not to do your workout, right? Who else is here? Thank you. Always great info from you. I'm glad that you, sometimes too much info. I do tend to ramble a little bit, but I assure you it is absolutely enthusiasm. I'm in my 17th year of instructing people on these plates, and I'm very blessed to have gained the experience and the mentors that I have over the years. And, I didn't have someone like me back in the day that I could ask questions to. There were no home machines. There wasn't anything under $10,000 when we got into this. So I'm happy to share some basic experience, but I want you guys to realize where you struggle with weight loss, with any of the exercise things on these machines isn't the machine. It's probably because you're not doing these things regularly now. If you were an exercise guru and you were going to the gym all the time and you're working with a trainer, not obviously, sometimes the body would physically reflect that, but you would have the skills to know how to do a squat properly, for how long, how deep, for your body type. It's not a bad thing. It's just, life gets in the way. And I didn't personally learn a lot of the technique or doing these exercises, positions properly until I had to do them in the environment of this plate that makes them more challenging. So I always played a lot of sports and I was very active, but I never really exercised for purpose until you have a setback and you're talking to a therapist. So if you're in a weight loss situation, because that's life and that's just where you've landed, know that you don't need to be a big exercise guru, but you do need to be consistent, and you do have to put forth a little bit of effort. The reason I like to push and make each position as hard as possible is I want to be done sooner. I'd rather be done my workout and huffing and puffing in 3 to 5 minutes and spend some more time doing the nice stuff than, sweating it for half, 3/4 an hour. I don't have a big attention span, and I'm a very busy homeschool mom. So I get her over and done with in the morning, and then later in the day, I've got no excuses either. And then, like I say, if you do have some time, you can invest a little bit more of it on the feel good stuff, if that makes sense. Do we have any questions? Is anybody having challenges with their squats? Have you had any setbacks? Is any of this surprising information to you? What I hope it is validating information. Don't worry about what your friend's doing or your next door neighbor's doing. When it comes to exercise and investments, it's very much a unique decision. So understand your limits, your parameters, what your sensitivities are, because we're all unique. And if you take some of these basic exercises and just simplify it, I think the intimidation factor will soon leave the building. So thank you very much for joining me today, guys. I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of the week. If you're liking, I'm trying to decide if I should keep doing Q&A Mondays or if I should stick with some toning Tuesdays. Let me know what you guys want for these sessions. We do them for you. They're good reminders for me as well. Kathy's 68 and she loves exercise. Good for you. That's a good attitude to have. The fact that you put love before the word exercise changed the whole vibration pattern, just so you know, Kathy, if you were listening to me ramble on that part. But the main reason I like to show up every week is to nag you and motivate you to get on your plate and use it. You guys just let me know what it is that you're trying to do on it, what the goals are. It's not always necessarily a big workout. And for those of you that are just using your plates to manage symptoms and chronic issues, sometimes that's the short-term goals. Some of the things I'm doing today are very hard if you're dealing with chronic pain and issues. And the last thing you want to hear is Debbie saying, you can do it, be consistent. It's not something you want to hear when your knee is so swollen that you can't even bend it. So if you are dealing with chronic issues, please reach out to me with those as well, or do a search. Sometimes I see you guys asking questions about what do I do for my low back, or what do I do for my fallen arches? And guaranteed over the 3 years I've been here, and Roseanne and Amber even longer, there's probably a session or 6 that we've done on some of these topics. And there's never one way to travel that path to success, whether it's exercise or therapeutic use. You are very unique in your issues, your tolerances, and your sensitivities and your mindset. So we try to give you lots of variety, not to make it confusing or too hard to decide, but some of this may resonate with you, and I want you to be consistent, if anything. So pick what works for you, and we're here to fill in the blanks. If you guys have any questions, or if there's a specific topic or specific set of moves you guys want to learn, please reach out to me with questions after today's session or in general. Always tag me at Debbie with a Y. And that's whether you're looking for me or you want to post something to me. Sometimes the questions in the comments on certain topics get big. And if you just type Debbie and don't tag me, sometimes it gets lost in the comments, and you get all these notifications that other people have commented, but you don't always see them when you get into those big numbers. So I appreciate you guys joining me today. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing you again here next week for another session. Don't work too hard. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your week.